Well, what does this all mean for Shedeur Sanders, who threw 1 touchdown pass to Harold Fannin and 2 interceptions in this game? I think it means a lot, actually. He didn't take huge strides towards that QB1 job for 2026.
First and foremost, they got the dub. I'll take that. The second thing is, when I look at it, I saw a plethora of very nice throws. I saw some things in terms of still having mobility and with his legs. If you take away, he had 2 really bad throws, but in general, I saw a really nice throw to Cedric Tillman. I saw some throws in the first half to Jerry Jeudy. I saw the throw, obviously Harold Fannin Jr. did a really good job of adjusting to that football.
Honestly, like they got good players, they got good coaches too. So, of course, whenever we're having a lot of success, they're gonna make adjustments and everything, but I haven't watched the film to be able to.
After absorbing weeks of nonstop criticism, Shedeur Sanders finally snapped back the only way that matters in the NFL, on the field. He tore straight through the Pittsburgh Steelers defense and powered the Cleveland Browns to a shocking upset that nobody saw coming. This wasn't just a win, it was a statement, and the entire stadium felt it from the opening snap. This game had fans locked in from start to finish, and Sanders was right at the center of everything that went right for Cleveland. Every time momentum started leaning Pittsburgh's way, Sanders pulled it back. He didn't disappear, he didn't shrink, he stood tall and kept the Browns alive until they ripped the game away from a playoff-hungry Steelers team. And in this breakdown, we're diving into exactly how Shedeur Sanders didn't just quiet the noise. He flipped the narrative entirely and took a massive step toward becoming the future of this franchise.
First and foremost, they got the dub. I'll take that. The second thing is, when I look at it, I saw a plethora of very nice throws. I saw some things in terms of still having mobility and with his legs. If you take away, he had 2 really bad throws, but in general, I saw a really nice throw to Cedric Tillman. I saw some throws in the first half to Jerry Jeudy. I saw the throw, obviously Harold Fannin Jr. did a really good job of adjusting to that football. And you take a look at the offensive line play. It was atrocious. We couldn't run the football, but when it's all said and done, he did make enough plays to get the win. And if you take those 2 throws, and I'm not even gonna say take them out because I'm accounting full stop for those throws. But I think that you can't discount the fact that he came out there, did enough to get a game to win against the Steelers.
This was about accuracy, composure, leadership, and nerve. Traits Cleveland has been searching for at quarterback for years. Coming into this matchup, Sanders was under a microscope. Every throw was judged. Every decision was questioned. Critics doubted whether he could handle the pressure of being the Browns' starter. And plenty of people wondered if the franchise quarterback talk was getting ahead of itself after earlier bumps in the season. But Sanders walked into this game with something personal on his mind, and he backed it up. From the very first snap, it was obvious he came prepared to prove a point. No hesitation, no fear, just confidence and control. The Steelers are known for physical defense, disguised looks, and relentless pressure. A nightmare matchup for most young quarterbacks, especially one still carving out his place in the league.
An 8. This pass to Fannin. Starts with Sanders looking down.
But instead of folding, Sanders elevated his game and met the moment head-on. He didn't just survive the pressure, he owned it. Throughout the game, Sanders showed poise that doesn't match his experience level. He made sharp reads, delivered pinpoint throws, and stayed composed every time Pittsburgh tried to wrestle control away. One of the most eye-opening parts of Shedeur Sanders' performance was his ridiculous accuracy. Completing 75% of his passes, he was fully locked in from start to finish. In a league where completion percentage tells the real story, this was Sanders sending a loud message. These weren't easy throws either. Short routes, intermediate timing plays, and shots downfield.
Really super surprising. We got great players on the Hungry Dogs. So Sal was able to come back in and be able to get his feet wet.
Sanders put the ball exactly where it needed to be. Over and over again, he hit receivers in stride, on time, and in rhythm, showing just how dialed in he was all night long. What stood out just as much as the stat line was how Shedeur Sanders controlled the pace of the game. He never let the moment speed him up, even when the Steelers' defense tried to turn it into chaos. Young quarterbacks usually rush throws, panic in collapsing pockets, or force plays that aren't there. Sanders did none of that. Instead, he played smart, patient football. He understood when to take the easy completion and when to push the ball downfield. That awareness kept Cleveland ahead of the chains and prevented the Steelers from feeding off mistakes, which is usually how they flip games in their favor. You could see it in his body language, too. No wide eyes, no frantic movement, just calm confidence. Every time he walked back to the huddle, teammates responded to him like a real leader, not a placeholder. That matters more than people realize. The Browns didn't ask Sanders to be reckless. They asked him to be reliable.
For Shedeur Sanders, this was his first real introduction to the AFC North. Yes, he came in relief of Dylan Gabriel on a game against Baltimore, played the second half, but that was kind of like, that doesn't count in my mind. This game did. He prepared for the Steelers, had to face them. It was bad weather. In fact, most of the games that Shedeur's played on the lakefront this year have been wet, snow, wind, rain. He's handled that pretty well. And this game, early on, terrific touchdown pass to Harold Fannin Jr., excellent passes to Cedric Tillman, Jerry Jeudy. It was just really good to watch him. Now, the second half was a little iffy, a couple interceptions he had during this game, but as I've been saying all along, this rush to judgment on him, up or down, starter or bench or whatever, just keep watching every game. He has one more game against Cincinnati. Then you measure him against what can the Browns do in the draft. But overall, I'll tell you this, Sanders has played much better than I expected him to in his rookie year.
And that's exactly what he delivered. He protected the football, avoided costly errors, and made Pittsburgh earn everything the hard way. That discipline drained the Steelers' energy as the game wore on. This performance also exposed something important. Sanders isn't just reacting anymore. He's anticipating. He read coverages pre-snap, adjusted protections, and clearly understood where his answers were if pressure came. That's a massive leap for a quarterback this early in his career. And when the game tightened up, Sanders didn't fade. He leaned in. Late downs, tight windows, hostile moments. Those are where young quarterbacks usually crack. Sanders stayed sharp, kept his mechanics clean, and trusted his reads. This wasn't about one drive or one throw. It was about consistency across all four quarters. The Steelers kept waiting for the mistake that never came. That's when doubt starts creeping in on the other sideline. For Cleveland, this changes everything. When a young quarterback proves he can manage pressure, protect the ball, and still move the offense, the entire playbook opens up. The ceiling rises instantly. Shedeur Sanders didn't just play well, he looked like someone who belongs in this league, commanding games instead of surviving them. Shedeur Sanders was making throws that demanded elite touch, perfect timing, and surgical precision, and there was no denying it. His ball placement jumped off the screen. He consistently dropped passes into windows where only his receivers could make a play, leaving defenders helpless and late. Whether it was a quick slant in traffic, a tight sideline throw, or a deep shot downfield, Sanders delivered every ball in rhythm. No hesitation, no floating passes. Everything came out clean, confident, and right on target. When fans talk about the league's most accurate quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers is always one of the first names mentioned. And for good reason. Rodgers built a career on pinpoint accuracy. But in this game, Sanders matched that standard and at times flat out surpassed it. While Rodgers struggled to find consistency, Sanders was carving up coverage. Tight windows didn't scare him. Pressure didn't speed him up. He threaded throws between defenders and put the ball exactly where it needed to be, snap after snap. The contrast between the two quarterbacks was impossible to ignore. One looked frustrated and out of sync. The other looked calm, controlled, and completely locked in. Sanders played like a veteran who understood every moment of the game. This wasn't just about stats on a box score. Accuracy in the NFL is about timing, situation, and trust. And Sanders delivered when it mattered most. He wasn't padding numbers with checkdowns. He was making high-difficulty throws in critical moments. Every completion helped Cleveland stay on schedule and kept the Steelers guessing. His throws didn't just move the chains, they set the tone. Pittsburgh never felt comfortable because Sanders never gave them an opening. That's why this performance hit differently. It wasn't just efficient, it was commanding. And it's exactly why so many people are starting to believe Sanders might finally be the answer to Cleveland's long-running quarterback problem.
Well, what does this all mean for Shedeur Sanders, who threw one touchdown pass to Harold Fannin and 2 interceptions in this game? I think it means a lot, actually. He didn't take huge strides towards that QB1 job for 2026, but I thought he took some steps forward once again. And I think that's important. That's what the Browns are looking for. They're looking for him to make incremental progress week by week. And then when they get to the end of the 7 games, they will decide if they want to draft a quarterback or if they want to stick with Shedeur and move forward with him as their QB1 in 2026. Now, the corollary to this is the fact that this victory knocked them down 3 notches in NFL draft order to number 6 right now. So even if they wanted to get their hands on one of the top 3 quarterbacks coming out in this draft, it just got a little tougher. So not only did Shedeur win the football game to add to his resume, but he also made it more difficult for the Browns to land his replacement. So, he did a lot of good things for himself in that regard. But on those first 2 drives against the Steelers, he showed some really good things. He was efficient. He operated really well. Now, albeit he was going against the 30th ranked pass defense, TJ Watt wasn't out there, but Shedeur had plenty of his own issues going in. He didn't have Quinshon Judkins. Harold Fannin left the game with a groin injury. So, he didn't exactly have a full complement of weapons either. Once again, I think he took more steps forward. He remains in that mix, and he's got one more shot to prove to the Browns they don't need to draft that QB.
For years, the Browns searched for stability under center. After this performance, it's hard to deny what's forming. Sanders showed skill, composure, and leadership when it counted. And it didn't stop there. Beyond the throws, Sanders showed something even more valuable: adaptability. The Steelers threw everything at him: blitzes, coverage changes, late rotations. But Sanders stayed calm. He adjusted on the fly, processed quickly, and kept delivering. Every time Pittsburgh thought they had him solved, he was already one step ahead. That adaptability became a weapon, and it kept the Browns alive all game long. What truly separated Shedeur Sanders in this matchup was how fast he processed everything happening around him. Defensive looks changed late, pressure came from unexpected angles, and windows closed quickly. But Sanders stayed composed. Young quarterbacks usually hesitate when defenses disguise coverages. That hesitation leads to sacks, turnovers, or wasted downs. Sanders avoided all of it by trusting his preparation and his reads. You could see him identifying blitzes before the snap. He knew where his hot routes were. He understood where his answers lived if pressure came immediately. That's not guesswork. That's command. The Steelers tried to speed him up by sending extra rushers and shifting coverages after the snap. It didn't work. Sanders adjusted his footwork, reset his platform, and delivered strikes under pressure. That kind of adaptability doesn't show up overnight. It shows a quarterback who studies, who prepares, and who understands how defenses think. Sanders wasn't just reacting, he was anticipating. Every incompleted pass chipped away at Pittsburgh's confidence. The defense kept changing tactics, but nothing slowed him down. That's exhausting for defenders and demoralizing for a coaching staff. And this is where belief starts growing inside a locker room. When a quarterback stays calm while chaos unfolds, teammates feed off it. The offense plays faster, routes get sharper, protection improves. This game showed that Sanders can survive when plans fall apart. He doesn't need everything perfect to function. That trait alone separates starters from backups in this league. Cleveland didn't just see accuracy. They saw intelligence, adaptability, and toughness all wrapped into one performance. Shedeur Sanders' football IQ was on full display from start to finish.
It was an awesome start. I don't know what. There's always this weird debate online. Well, it was the scripted play. Okay, so he ran the scripted plays, and he ran them well. And he was throwing confidently. Remember, right at kickoff, like the weather conditions, they looked way worse at the stadium than they were outside my house.
They were not fun.
They were not fun. It didn't look like it was conducive to throwing the football, and yet his first 6 passes were all boom, 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 and he stood there confidently. I thought it was the only time the offensive line protected him was early in the game, and maybe that was more about the scripted plays than his play. I would actually say the scripting of the plays is probably why the offensive line held up early on.
What makes this game so significant is that you find yourself, and I'm serious here, guys, you find yourself in a spot where you go, is he unplayable?
No.
Is he?
Oh, my God.
And
no.
that's the exact point. I think for a lot of Browns fans out there,
he fits right in.
You can't say he's unplayable. Yeah. I can't say he's going to take off and have this tremendous future, but I don't think he's unplayable.
And this game made that impossible to ignore. He handled relentless defensive pressure while still delivering accurate throws and consistently getting the ball into the hands of his playmakers. The defining moment came late in the fourth quarter, with the Browns locked in a tight battle against Pittsburgh. The Steelers' defense turned up the heat, selling out to force a mistake. They wanted Sanders to crack, and instead, he delivered the biggest throw of his young career. With pressure closing in and defenders collapsing the pocket, Sanders stood tall and never flinched. He trusted his read, trusted his arm, and launched a deep strike to Harold Fannin. Fannin hauled it in and took it the rest of the way for a game-changing touchdown that completely flipped the night. That throw wasn't just impressive, you're right. It was fearless. Defenders in his face. No clean pocket. No margin for error. And yet Sanders delivered with confidence and precision. That moment defined his performance. It showed maturity, calm under fire, and the ability to execute when everything is on the line. Those are the plays that separate quarterbacks who survive from quarterbacks who lead. Even Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin had no choice but to acknowledge what he saw. A coach who has faced elite quarterbacks year after year recognized Sanders' impact immediately. Tomlin openly credited Sanders as the difference maker and praised the control and confidence he showed throughout the game. That recognition matters. When a veteran coach like Tomlin speaks up, it's a sign the league is taking notice. Sanders wasn't treated like a rookie. He was treated like a legitimate threat. This game marked a turning point. Sanders proved he can handle pressure, deliver in clutch moments, and lead when the stakes are highest. That's not projection. That's evidence. He showed that he isn't just a quarterback with potential. He's someone defenses must prepare for and respect. This wasn't just a win for Cleveland. It was a declaration. Shedeur Sanders showed he has the tools, the mindset, and the command to lead this team forward. The Browns didn't just survive the night. They found their guy. What makes that late-game moment even more powerful is how calmly Shedeur Sanders walked back to the huddle afterward. No celebration, no panic, just business. That's the kind of reaction teammates remember. Great quarterbacks don't just make big plays. They stabilize the entire sideline. After that touchdown, the Browns looked confident, organized, and locked in. That confidence flows directly from the quarterback. Sanders didn't need everything to be perfect to deliver. Protection broke down. Pressure arrived early. And still, he trusted his preparation and his instincts. That's a massive indicator of long-term success. Defenses can scheme against arm talent. They can disguise coverages. What they can't easily stop is a quarterback who stays calm while chaos unfolds. This game showed Sanders can process fast, adapt faster, and execute when the margin for error disappears. Those traits don't fade when competition improves. They become more valuable. Cleveland has cycled through quarterbacks for years, searching for someone who could own moments like this. Someone who wouldn't shrink when the spotlight hits hardest. Sanders didn't just accept the spotlight, he controlled it. This performance also changed how future opponents will approach Cleveland. Defensive coordinators now have to respect Sanders' ability to beat pressure and punish aggressive looks. That opens up the offense and changes game plans immediately. More importantly, the locker room now has clarity. Players rally around quarterbacks who prove it on the field, not in press conferences. Sanders earned that respect snap by snap. This wasn't hype. This wasn't projection. This was real production under real pressure against a real opponent. Shedeur Sanders didn't ask for patience. He demanded belief.